Welcome everyone. We are live, as StreamYard says, and we are for the first time in such a big crowd here, joined by 3 of the 4 from the Candid Contributions teams. Hello everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
And Callum, of course. Hi Callum, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
we went live that we were testing the limits of our streaming tool here. We didn't know that we could have more than 4 people. Turns out we can. Maybe we can do more in future episodes. Who knows?
That's lucky, because otherwise you'd have had to pick your favourites, and that would have been really awkward.
Or have like a tag team thing where you've got to swap people in and out.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, but in those times, unusual times, those tools are getting more and more popular. More features, more people can join the talks and stuff like that. So hopefully they will be all evolving. And I have one suggestion for the UI improvement and the scroll here, because we missed Lotte at the beginning when we joined the stream. So sorry, Lotte, for that. It's Friday again, and it's a kind of unusual Friday. I know that in the UK and some of other areas in the world, you have a bank holiday today, and you probably decided to use this time more efficiently than usual Freedom Fridays, because you are running the virtual hackathon today, right? Started some time ago. Can you tell us more about it, maybe at the beginning? No.
We're all so polite, waiting for each other to speak.
We know that if we wait long enough, Lotte will go.
Lotte will chime in.
Let's not hear from Lotte.
An hour and a half ago, we started an hour and a half ago, and we had 12 people ready to get going at the start. It was amazing. I thought it would be the 4 of us from Candid Contributions having an hour to be able to plan it, but no, everyone was there on the door together.
It was all planned. It was fine.
And I'm just looking on the other screen now, just keeping an eye on them as they're carrying on in the hackathon without us. And yep, they all seem to be busy at their computers doing things.
Not that that's a requirement.
No, you're allowed to just drop in and say hello and join us for a cup of tea or coffee. Coffee, I think it's morning. So,
well, as Marky Mark did this morning, he joined to say he was going to be doing some gardening today.
I love that. That is exactly the sort of thing that we're encouraging. Pop in, say hello, see some of your Umbraco friends, meet some new Umbraco friends. We've got some people who've never been to a hackathon before. So, Seb's updated his status to Seb lunch. So Sebastian's gone for lunch.
Yeah, I've seen you were going to use Discord, right? Is it still used? Because I'm just interested how Discord is working for the events like that. Is it all right?
It's an excellent question. We have been learning whilst we use, but no, it seems to be a really good way of just people kind of collaborating in small groups. I mean, Emma's worked out how to put some music on in one of the Discord rooms. So for a while that was only jazz, but it's better now, I think.
So we're using Zoom for the face-to-face call kind of thing, and then Discord for like chats, like text chats or music as well.
Mm-hmm. That's really nice. I remember times when we were firing up the Zoom for the whole day during the hackathon, and people were, as you said, just joining and sharing what they were doing, even if it was not related with the hackathon. That's great. And I really like the timeline for the all areas of the world. I was sharing the screen with this image because it was kind of a really nice picture of who can join when and what's happening on the various time zones, and all of the community members who are very active on the various areas of the world can just jump in and do their thing, whatever it is. And if it's related with the Umbraco directly or any other open source contributions, that's really cool. And it's Umbraco Hackathon, so you're probably focusing more on Umbraco topics. Do you have any specific plans from your perspective, or areas of contributions or places where you want to contribute and it waited for this event to happen finally?
There are quite a few issues in the packages area of Hour that have been up for grabs, but we haven't been very good at promoting that they're up for grabs. So that's what I'm hoping to see some issues get done. And there are some quite small ones. So there've been some nice ones for first timers or people who've only got half an hour So that's what I'm hoping to see. I also thought my mum was about to walk through the door, but she didn't.
It would be like that BBC thing where the kids come down, but in reverse. Oh, sorry, Laura.
No, you go.
I'm going to try and get the .NET Core branch working on my machine. I've done it maybe a few months ago, but I think quite a lot's changed. So I'm going to try and get that running, and then probably do some PRs for docs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess when we were like planning it, we really wanted it to be like as accessible to everybody who wanted to join in like as possible. So yeah, we've sort of touched base with not just the packages and the .NET Core team, but also like the accessibility community teams and just anybody that, you know, might be interested in having stuff for people to do. I think I'm going to be working on some UX UI stuff just because it's a bit different and something quite fun. So we'll see how it goes.
There's definitely, I think, as Lotte said, you had about 12 people at the start. It grew to, I think, 25 people at one point. Yeah. And there's a really decent mix of people who are maybe, like, I know Jesper's working on quite a big thing for Hour at the moment, relating to API keys and publishing packages. But you've got people working on accessibility issues. And because today's sort of a day off for most people, at least in the UK, turns out it's not in Poland or in Scotland. No. But yeah, you've got people that kind of feel like they can do something that they maybe wouldn't normally work on. They're not in the confines of their office and feeling like they have to work on that issue that's been bugging them at work or something. They, like you say, Laura, I don't generally do front end stuff, so actually picking up a UX and accessibility thing might be a bit of fresh air.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, there's a really good mix of people who are there. So if you do want to do something that's outside your comfort zone, there's just people you can ask, and people are just going to be kind of virtually around for the next couple of days, which will be quite good. Yeah,
and this is, I think I used the words earlier, meticulously planned, but Lotte, you said no, it's not. However, you've got this spanning over 3 different time zones. So the US and the Australia are going to be dialing in at different points throughout the next 24 hours. And so you're going to have Nathan picking stuff up and the Skrift team picking stuff up a bit later on as well. So you actually got this full this hackathon spanning the full community effectively worldwide.
Yeah, and
we do have an end time for today, but it's not obligatory because the Zoom call can keep going until it runs out 24 hours later. So as long as everyone promises to behave, we can leave them to it. And yeah, we have Janae and Erica from Skrift hopefully dropping in this evening. That will be their afternoon. And then tomorrow morning, Carole, we have an exciting start planned for tomorrow morning, don't we?
Yeah, so tomorrow morning we have Chris, who will be joining us from Australia and doing some mindfulness with us. So it kind of started off as us saying, oh, well, we do talk about yoga a lot on the podcast. Maybe we could do some yoga. And then we thought, we're probably not the experts at that, but maybe we can get Chris to do some mindfulness.
Not experts yet.
Yeah. But yes, she's agreed to do that. We're really, really excited. So is that 9 o'clock UK time tomorrow?
Yeah, 9 o'clock. And yeah, time zones are hard.
They are. Laura created that agenda schedule thing that you showed, and she created all of it right down to the fonts, which I keep telling everyone. Amazing, she's super creative. But yeah, we were all on a call trying to work out time zones, and yeah, it hurts my head.
Yeah, like John Skeet said, time zones are hard. Times are hard.
Yeah, I was going to mention exactly this sentence. But you've mentioned the podcast, and I think it's a good time to mention also this part of your contributions and of course activities in the communities around programming and things what we are all involved in. And you've released 3 days ago new episode of Candid Contributions podcast called Perfect. And maybe it's a time to tell us more what was the content of the episode and where people can find your podcast if they are not listening to it yet regularly.
Well, this episode was about perfect and kind of what perfect even means, and the kind of dangers of waiting until something's perfect before putting it out into the world, or feeling that you can contribute to something. So I guess in the context of open source, sometimes it's the fear of making mistakes or not being perfect that can stop people from contributing, or, you know, showing your work, putting, like, I think the Umbraco community is quite good at, you know, if you create like a package or something, like sharing it, getting feedback, making changes to it. But yeah, we discussed the advantages of showing your work and sharing what you're doing, but also how that can be hard. We chatted about like the kind of mental side of how it can take quite a lot of energy to put stuff out there.
Oh, so I can totally relate to this topic, and we were probably all been there and done that. So it's great. Sounds like something to really catch up. I have it on my to listen list for this break, the Easter break. So that's great. But you've mentioned packages. Probably you've also mentioned during the episode the whole mental toughness with delivering work and expectations put high, and the breaks, and maybe Lee Kelleher as well and his talk during the Spark, or not?
We did mention that on the Spark episode, yeah. Quite a bit about that.
It was also something relates to that.
Yeah, it's hard because
in the Spark episode, Marcin. So you want to listen to the Spark episode as well. Yeah,
I listened to the end also carefully multiple times, but I was thinking if it was mentioned also in this episode as well. But I need to listen. I will then catch up, of course, and we will post the link to Candid Contributions podcast on Spreaker below the episode once again.
It's available in all good places, though, right? You can get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Google Podcasts.
It's a funny thing for some people, because they now don't have a commute. The listening to podcasts is something that there isn't really space for in their daily routine. But we've had feedback that other people are really enjoying, like when they go for their walk, the one walk that we're allowed in the UK at least. Some people have taken us with them on that walk, which is a wonderful thing to hear. And other people are just enjoying listening to a podcast in the evening so that you can give your eyes a rest from a computer. And we've gone to weekly because we just enjoy doing it, and we have nowhere else to be at the weekend, so why not? I mean, we like having a good chat, so why?
That's what we've always said with umbraCoffee. For us, but this conversation, this chatting about what's gone on in the week would have happened anyway. And so especially for you, if the conversation's natural and you've still got stuff to chat about, make it weekly. Heck, make it daily if you really, maybe not. But yeah, I guess, does this mean we'll be seeing an episode next week? No pressure, given that it's a public holiday weekend.
I think we've announced the episode as Hack.
Oh,
so
lovely.
Yeah, so we can basically talk about that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's really nice. Cool. We can probably jump to another topic. And if we are talking about routines, weekly releases, and consistency, it's a good segue to Kevin Jump and releases of using, because this week we also had a new release for version 8.6, working with all the Umbraco version 8.x. So once again, great release, making us all up to date and possible to work with using in the latest Umbraco, because we also had an 8.6 release previous week.
UI refinements. I saw him, I think, on the community Slack saying he spends way too much time on like all of these micro interactions that you see in the back office. Like here, before you didn't have a progress bar under each section of an export, for example, and now you do. Simple things, but it makes the package feel so slick. You wouldn't necessarily notice them, but it's an attention, a level of detail that maybe others don't follow. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He also is really good at picking up issues with breaking changes and releases, because usync deals with so much of the code base and he keeps out all his packages as up to date as he can. So he's an asset to the community in that respect.
Indeed.
I must say that I'm looking very often to Kevin's repositories to find how to use some of Umbraco APIs and extension points and stuff like that, because it's usually it's all there already, and I find it really useful to relate to that and also learn from this code in the using. Something totally different, Callum, what you've also noticed during this week was Igloo theme update to the version 2.2. And it's already on Hour as well to be installed, because
yes.
I didn't check.
It's on Hour and everywhere else. They've a bunch of grid improvements in this release and some bug fixes as well.
Mm-hmm. And from the other packages, the Carbon 6 team released the member personalization.
This went kind of under the radar, but this looks really cool. So this is a personalization engine for Umbraco 8, and it means you can do personalization by members. So you can add tags to stuff and then say this member wants to see content for these tags, and those are boosted, promoted. It looks like a really good first stab at personalization. We've not seen actually any personalization products for 8 yet, so this is really cool. I need to have a play.
I will give a star and come back to that later. Yeah, it was somewhere under the radar, but it's something fresh, really fresh. So let's see and let's play with it. Looks really.
Who works at Carbon 6?
Well, that's Paul Marden's company. They've got Gareth. They've got, in fact, as a company, they do quite a lot of good stuff with apprenticeships as well. So they take on a lot of apprentices and train them up. As well. So yeah, it looks like Gareth has worked mostly on this.
Yeah, but they are also really active in blogging, and I remember a lot of great blog posts released by Paul and their team to around Umbraco topics. So looks like a lot of people were looking for personalization engine, and some of them literally built them before waiting for someone else to release them for them. That's great. Shannon also released a new version of Articulate, and I also checked some of the code there in the meantime, because we know that Shannon worked on a lot of areas in V8, and Articulate is also using some of the APIs there. But I was not using Articulate for blogging engines for a while, but it looks like it's really there, and it's really great for everyone who wants to start the blog on Umbraco V8.
When I've heard Shannon talk about Articulate before, he said, "Oh, there's some features that are being used in here that maybe some of the HQ team don't even know exist." So this was one of the first packages to actually utilize like a treeless section and a few things until they were properly documented. As you say, a fantastic resource for how stuff could be done in V8, how the APIs work, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and here there was a big high five to Benjamin for pull requests. So it's not only work done by Shannon, but also a community open, another open source project to which we can all contribute and as a part of our open source activities. Another package, Ham Approver for Umbraco forms from Soren. And as
this looks like V2.
Yeah, V2 for V8. What the package does is workflow for Umbraco forms that helps you eliminate spam submissions. Oh, that's okay. That's interesting. So as a spam is a common problem on all forms, not only Umbraco forms. It's just one step before probably email got sent to validate if the entry from the form is correct. I need to check it. So it looks like it's something what some of my projects will need.
Marcin, you need to re-add Laura.
Re-add Laura. I'm re-adding Laura.
Hey, now
you're back. Yeah. So do you also find any issues with spam on your forms? Because even reCAPTCHA in version 2 and version 3 is something what robots are finding not so challenging these days. It was a question.
I've had issues where captures and honeypots and all kinds of stuff are being bypassed. Had a site where I had 15,000 spam submissions on one form.
I found something really interesting recently, that we've added reCAPTCHA to one of the forms in our clients' projects, and the spam went crazy just after that. So it looks like bots are looking for forms which has reCAPTCHA added, and they are just crawling them and probably triggering the submissions there, because without reCAPTCHA it was not the problem there that much, which is also interesting finding. And last contribution, last thing on our list to improvements for Umbraco and in general, is a doc-type grid editor being fueled by media tracking available in 8.6. Yeah. And it's a massive improvement for the way how things are organized with the doc-type grid editor, which is one of the, I don't know, at least from my perspective, is one of the most popular packages for VA. What about you?
Yeah, there's actually a reason I wanted to highlight this specifically, though, which was kind of from the hackathon discussion that we've got. Firstly, this is the first community package to implement media tracking. So you've got this data tracking resolver, data value reference that you have to implement, and that actually wires up into media tracking and all of the stuff to tell Umbraco where something's used. And of course, for a custom package like this, it needs to be reported. But the bigger thing is this isn't actually documented as of yet, as far as I know. And so this would be the first real world example of it being used, where someone could go and copy and follow the source. And perhaps then there's a task today that could be done to add this to the documentation and get this listed. The code itself looks really clean. It's easy to follow. So maybe this is a task for the hackathon today.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you mentioned it, we can be added to the Trello to make some docs for this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the power of open source. You can see how it's done. Copy, replace it, and just adjust it for the documentation needs to let everyone else use it in their own integrations. That's awesome. And the example mentioned by Soren in Warren's code is just another example how the whole chain can be performed. But the whole chain of our mentions drives us to the part where we are going to miss some of the events again. I don't know if you've seen the tweet today from Jesper, who is sailing with his sons. And yeah, it all reminds us about the boats and boats on every year's Code Garden. So yeah, not this year, but everyone is just waiting for the times when we will be all able to sail again.
I love the idea that Jesper's there doing his own Code Garden boat trip. he's got the speaker. He's got huge pallets of beers. It's just him and his two sons.
Yeah, sounds similar. So yeah, that's Code Garden Blues, and we had a lot of other stuff on our list to mention. Some of the blog posts, some of the packages. We can start from maybe your profile on Umbraco HQ website, and this profile for the April is Sotiris from Greece, who was well known and done a lot of great packages for V7, and he's working with Umbraco since version 4. So that's a long journey. So if someone didn't know Sotiris and wants to learn more about him and his activity in Umbraco community, there is a big great blog post about one of the probably not so many Umbraco developers in Greece.
I think he said he's one of 4, and they're all spread. Greece is a pretty big country. They're spread across the country. So yeah, it's a shame they've not really got a community there. But Sotiris pops his head into like the Friday bar, and community. Maybe we'll see him today. I don't know. But yeah, he's normally pretty up for joining like virtual events because their community is so distributed.
I think that's why it was so important for us to make the hackathon across different time zones, so that people in places that, like Australia, I guess, that don't have a massive community, or they do have a big community but they're really spread out, then it means that they can still join and be part of it.
I can see that Arnold there is asking if we're running the Friday bar today. It's not going to be quite the same, but we have what are referred to as happy hours, which is sort of bring your own beverage and just sit and socialize virtually for like an hour or however long, really. So it's similar.
Awesome.
That's 5 o'clock in Arnold's time zone. Although to be honest,
I didn't really appreciate until 2 or 3 weeks ago when we first had the virtual Friday bar that even in Europe, time zones are quite different. So the Friday bar starts at 4 in like Denmark. It's 3 o'clock in the UK, which is too early. And maybe for, say, Busra, who's currently in Turkey, they're 2 hours ahead, and that's actually a lot later. So yeah, I hadn't really considered that in Europe we had such
time zones are hard.
Time zones are hard. Yes.
We need to remind Nathan he should be having a happy hour now because it's
He's just on his own drinking it.
We were taking him out from some parties for umbraCoffee, so yeah, totally. Cool. That's another opportunity to chat later for people who will be available on their time zones. The next topic on our list was the multilingual stuff, which is another hard topic. So time zones and multilingual stuff are really tough. And Greg from our team made one small improvement for umbraco picker for URL. I don't know if you've seen this, because we were struggling with possibility to check to select multilingual URLs from different languages. And as Callum, you've stated, it's something what we want to plug into the core features, but we just need to test it in the wild and see if it's not creating more issues or something like that. So feel free to play with it. It's in beta version on NuGet, so everyone can play with it. Basically, it's adding the same dropdown as we know from languages in the content section to URL picker to allow you to select specific language version of the page and URL from it.
Which makes tons of sense. I remember, like, back in January, we were discussing, Marcin, how the hell would you tackle this problem? And I said, look, you're going to have to modify the tree somehow and add some kind of selector there for the language. But it looks pretty slick. This is, should really be in core. Please get it in core.
It's of course open source. Find it out, play with it, help us make it stable, and maybe we can submit a pull request to the core soon, really soon. Another topic which you've mentioned is something what I'm really familiar with recently. It's an OWASP testing, automated testing for security issues.
This comes thanks to Fred, who tweeted this to Sebastian, I think. Basically, this is a GitHub action that will automatically do OWASP testing on your code base, which is great, especially for open source projects, for packages. You can imagine this being used as part of the Umbraco build process. So they can do a certain level of automated testing just as part of like creating a release, and they don't have to worry so much about a manual process going in and checking it. It looks really, really cool and super simple to configure.
Yeah, for those who are using Azure DevOps, there is an Azure DevOps task to do the same, which I used on some of our projects recently. So you can configure it. It installs the Docker image container with the whole tool and pings the website specific URL and reports the tests. You can push the tests to your test DevOps engine and have the meaningful reports from your security automated checks there, which is really cool. I have a blog written about it, so it will be also released soon, how to configure it on DevOps. So it's a great. Right now, I have a lot of dilemmas. I don't know if it's also on your ends. The same tools are released for GitHub and DevOps, and there is always a challenge where to plug it and where it's the better place for it to be included in the pipeline. So it's great to see such many opportunities to use tools like that for various pipelines. And Callum, the other topics, something what is not loading correctly for me.
To be fair, this article's in Dutch, so it's pretty difficult to understand. But this Umbraco has been ranked as the #1 open source CMS overall in the Netherlands by this website for the 2nd year running as well, which is awesome. They're scoring ahead of WordPress and Drupal, which we would have hoped anyway, but they it makes it sort of official. So yeah, That's good.
Congrats. That's good. That's good for all of us. And if we are talking about Umbraco and Umbraco HQ and Denmark, we had some really nice blog posts coming from HQ at the end of this week's episode. We have a gathering of gold partners inputs again for about web trends. I didn't read this article, so I don't know that too much about it. But did you all read it? Did you follow the blog post already?
It's the one about dark mode, and because Carl talked about it at the UK festival, and
Yes.
it's something I confess I never realised that was a thing. And if you prefer dark mode, then you can have your own CSS. And he's talking about that things like that are going to be used more.
I wonder if that could be a fun thing to work on for the hackathon.
Yeah, I must say that I'm using dark theme everywhere where possible. As you can see, my browser even is in dark theme. I turned Slack into dark theme recently, and we are also using Kevin's Jumps package to use back office in Umbraco projects in the dark theme in some of the projects.
With or without the V7 UI.
Yeah, together with V7 UI. But there were some other trends which we need to probably catch up, because I think there is a lot of things coming really nicely in the web. And I can just add to that, I don't know if it was mentioned, but in the times which we are all facing right now, a really important stuff is about performance and data consumption. Especially, we can see it in the streaming engines who are trying to reduce the amount of data flying around the services. And it's become more and more important to think about it and reduce the sizes of sites in general. And the last two topics was about partners and contributing gold partners.
Carole, Equator is one of them, right?
Yeah, which is really cool. Thanks. Yeah, it's really cool to see. I think it's a really nice idea to kind of shout out the companies that are kind of making time available or hosting meetups or contributing in a bunch of different ways. I guess a bit like MVPs, it's all different ways of contributing. I think it's a really nice way to celebrate that.
So we've got 26 partners, 26 gold partners who are going above and beyond, hosting things like meetups. But as Carole rightfully said, it's a huge range of stuff, from contributing to the core, to organizing events, to supporting things like umbraCoffee and Skrift. So yeah, it's great for them to be recognized. And you have a little badge to put on your website and brag to clients about.
Yeah, we were mentioning this. Sorry?
Did you all play the game that I did, which is how many names do you recognize? Because there were some names in that list that I've never heard of, which I was surprised by, that a company that's been supporting Umbraco enough to be recognized in this way is a company that I've never heard of. So it is a great idea for that, I think.
So it's a good point. I get around a bit, so I think I know most of the names on the list. But but yeah, you're absolutely right that these aren't. There's quite a lot of UK-centric companies in that list, but there's some in Sweden that maybe we wouldn't have heard of, or the US, and it's great to see them recognized.
Yeah, I'm so probably I was in the loop of those activities from those companies, but we were talking about this badge a couple of weeks ago when it was first announced, and people were not aware if it will be something really helpful. But I think right now, I know that we may know or not know those companies, but right now, if we will check them, we'll check what they are doing, how they help Umbraco in general. It might turn more companies to think, okay, those companies are active, they are doing something beyond that, they are helping in the various ways, maybe we can do it as well, and it can make only Umbraco and the whole products and our contributions and our activities better in overall. I think it's, even if it's just a batch, right?
Looking for a job right now, because at the moment I still have a company, but if I were looking for a job, I would go and look at that list of 26 people, because they're the ones who realize what community is. So.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I wonder, I know that partners have been asking for a long time about having a way to differentiate themselves from the other partners, officially recognizing some of the effort that they put in. It's great this has happened. I wonder how long before, though, we see the demand for another tier where people are trying to compete and do more and more and more, and they want to be a platinum.
Titan partner.
Everyone was watching, probably scribbling all these ideas down.
But this is exactly what I mentioned in one of my tweets recently. That was exactly something what I was considering when I was looking for a job, right? So that's if it will bring that positive side effects for this small initiative, that's exactly what probably was planned or even maybe initiated as a beginning of the whole action. So that's great. Big high five work for all of the contributing gold partners right now. And last but not least, Umbraco team is constantly growing, and this week we had 2 people being highlighted in the series of new hires in Umbraco HQ, and I'm trying to open blog posts right now to highlight those 2 people. It was Jake Compton in the US department and Shanice Dogan as an addition to the comma team, right? So somewhere here, if I will zoom out in the Learn Umbraco blog section, we can find 2 blog posts with the profiles of the 2 new great additions to Umbraco HQ team. And that's all from our list, right, Callum? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We lost
Callum.
We lost Callum.
Hey. I just asked if it's all from our list. Probably that's all.
Yeah, I think.
So yeah, that's again busy week with the great set of activities around. I won't be asking about your plans because I know your plans for the rest of the day. But you're coming back to hacking.
Yeah. You going to join us?
I hope to join you really soon. I need to just enjoy some of the really Freedom Friday vibe because today, as UK department is on bank holiday, I can enjoy it even more. And yeah, I will join you. And Callum, what are we doing with the not Freedom Friday, Friday bar?
As Laura mentioned, they've got a happy hour planned. I think we can encourage the community to join that, and I guess reach out to any of the Candid Contributions team who can share a link to join, or maybe me and Marcin can probably to ask as well if you want to. What time's that, Laura? 4? Did you say UK time, 4 p.m?
I think so. That's right, Lotte?
Yeah, I think 4 p.m. But to be honest, any time really, because it's nice to have a bit of chat in the background. And also what you might get, so what we had earlier was a spontaneous screen share from Jesper looking for a bit of feedback. So it might be that you're having your beer or beverage of choice and actually being able to have a bit of input on something that someone's working on. So don't feel like you've got to be there and do some coding. You're welcome to just pop in and have a drink and a chat. There are some At any time, there are some familiar community members. There are some new community members at the moment. At the moment, we've actually got a first timer session going through how you do pull requests. I'm just looking at it on the other screen. And Emma's eating a banana. So that's the latest for the hackathon.
Status update. Yeah. That's definitely we encourage everyone to join. Contributions doesn't need to be a code contributions. It can be just feedback, opinion, or just a nice chat about anything. Cool. That's great. I will definitely join during the day. Thank you for joining us today and for sharing this this great vibe around the hackathon and all the rest what you are doing as a Candid Contributions. Not only keep it up and thank you once again. And thank you everyone for watching us. See you later during the day and have a great Easter break.